This day 758 of the Arukh HaShulchan Yomi. Like sponsor of Mishir Mor Arukh HaShulchan Yomi, please find me directly. I really appreciate it. Today's Arukh HaShulchan Yomi is Taf Samach Zayin, Chaf Hei to Lam Gimel. Chaf Hei. Mikra Din, Shnim Siskarim Tafshil. From the strict letter of law, if you find a kernel of grain inside a cooked dish, or tiny close move, Shal Shnim Tzabachita, Basket Pesa, or you have a cooked chicken, which you find a cracked wheat on Pesach, Shemutu Mochel and Yehudi, you're allowed to sell to a non-Jew, but it's an enemy of chametz, not the right benefit for chametz. So they're not charging for the wheat. Ela ba'ad tanigos, you're only charging for the chicken. Not selling for a more expensive price just because you found a piece of wheat inside it. And Shubra says, after you remove the wheat, and all you have is a tam chametz. You should not leave the piece of wheat in your house. Shouldn't leave, I guess, the chicken in your house because you might come to eat it. I'm not sure we have to remove the piece of wheat. I don't know why. Maybe if you sell by weight, it takes up a slight amount of weight. I don't know. But in any event, Mikom, not only to say our countries, we don't sell it, we burn everything. Or toss it into the toilet. Because we consider the entire cooked dish and the entire chicken for chametz. So if you find that kernel of grain on that day, the mutzah shows Pesach, leave it after Pesach. Kain mashis rabbanon, since the mashis rabbanon, lo ichmiru bo b'yom tabachon shoso. They were not machmir to leave it over from the last day. Mishabura says in Mokum hefsein merubah ma'od. Interesting language. Extreme hefsein merubah. That kohenim were maker like the mechaber that you can actually sell it to a guy. This is Sharatzion says that in Beis Meir he proved that if through the selling to a guy is also still leave you with a great loss, you can leave it till after Pesach. Wow. Okay, Mr. Burr says even if the mixture came about before the 8th day, nevertheless, if you left it till the 8th day, you can continuously leave it on till after Pesach, and then says Mr. Burr, you're even allowed to eat it. It's interesting that Arukh HaShulchan does not go into this great detail, which doesn't necessarily argue with Mishnah Berurah. Doesn't go into that great details in Mishnah Berurah. Anyway, back to Arukh HaShulchan. The question is, "Nosi tam v'gam leishlo kelbo." If you left it over and it's ready to stay up to tam v'gam, you could certainly be maker. See if I go there and finish gam shir pesach leishlo kfias ha kli until motzei yontif. And even the 7th day of Pesach, you can leave it and wait till after Pesach. I didn't notice that last safely. He said B'Shvi Shel Pesach. He did say that. Oh, he did say B'Shvi Shel Shchim Achor Shel Pesach. Yeah. Okay, that's what he said. The Yeshmanim B'Shvi Shel Pesach Shabbos Shel Zulifnei Amorep. Somebody admit when this comes in front of a rub and says Pesach Yom HaShosh HaKosh Shiv Chayis. I never said that before. He should say it's hard for me to answer this today. And when he comes, he should come back at night. Does Achor Pesach? It's already Achor Pesach at that point. He has to show us the Machar B'Lav. I can leave, allow him to leave until tomorrow night and then to eat it. That is a fascinating psak. Wow. Chavav. Im Avu Matzah Pesach. If you bake Matzah Pesach, which of course you don't do anymore, then you schita b'kor and you find a cracked kernel of wheat. But he saw in the dough of matzah or the baked matzah. Pasal rosh pasal she seen in medicate the tilmakum. You take a finger's breadth around that place you find the wheat. Bashumot and the rest is permitted. Show you the chol. Yes, look, you will tell machita til smokum. Will not have received taste in the kernel grain more than the shear of netil smokum. She's the dover shomein. It's not a fatty thing. Shifafei which is going to spread throughout the matzah. Ish mishul tzarkola. He says those are the entire dough, the okam matzah, or the entire matzah. Because of Rashi, but Shuva siman, whatever, simplifying. After it rolled around in the dough, then it just stays in one place. Rolled around all over the place when it's being kneaded. It wouldn't say in this case, well, he found it here, this is where it must have been. Since of course when you knead the dough, the things the things roll around the entire dough. And since it's during Pesach, the mashal is still cool, and the mashal is already asked the entire substance. Should be some besides that, the water in the dough brings the taste throughout the entire dough. Because it's appropriate to be conservative this opinion. Unless it's a or in the difficult situation, does say the rush where you can pass him like the rush and just move Kedei Natila. Mishuba says to us, even if it's the kernel grain is soft, even if it isn't yet cracked, it's still a problem. The Mesach Eliezer, however, wants to be makel if it wasn't yet cracked because of Kuliyama, I guess because of the rush. The rush says that to take off the Natila, that's specifically in terms of eating, but Hana, you can make or have simra if it didn't crack, even without taking off, even without deducting the price. And the tilas would have been a tilas smokum, I guess. Back to Arukh. Why can we make a b'shas chag like the rush? Because we can say everybody should take time because it didn't necessarily give a taste entire though. Even rolled around throughout all of it. Okay, I mean, therefore it's saying, indeed, here's where it found, here's where the problem is. Only gave a taste in this place. Voted for them, I feel in the spot, even in spot, even cracked. And it's gomer. I don't know for sure it's chametz. It's close to becoming chametz. But still have a seafood test, like we wrote previously. The Chav Zayin. Rabbeinu Makazel said the Kain Hogim Tzachah Pesach Lesser or Samachim Tzachita. The Ramah says the Makazim is indeed to ask that piece of matzah in which the kernel grain was found. The Shubur says that indeed it sounds like even Hefzim Ruba the Ramah is machmir. However, if it's only became soft, that kernel grain, and was not cracked, perhaps you make up a Hefzim Ruba by taking off Kedei Natila. Never, even the Ramah says matir mesacherus. Without the other ones, ben shenimtza ba afuya ochaya, whether it's to be found baked or raw in the matzah. Mamriyan kanim is kind of say this where it's found is where it was, not elsewhere. When it says be so sim kolisa, if it's found in the dough, you ask the entire dough. Actually, it's not the Rosh speaking, it's or the Ramah speaking. I'm not sure I made that clear. Then it says be Esau, but if it's found in the dough, you ask the entire dough. For dafka to Pesach, so during Pesach. Going to Pesach, if it's before Pesach, you only ask to contain the tila. That's the custom. Kloma, meaning shenimtzis the matzah, when it's found in the matzah, so we don't say that the kernel of grain was in the dough. The Tesla and all the dough should come out. So Ramina, we say kanim says the matzah was found. The matzah kind of is where it was. And we don't assume that it's here that it also was also there. According to this, if the wheat kernel is full of grain, from side to side, but it must be in the water. All the entire dough would be awesome. But on the other hand, you could say, no, perhaps the water got into somewhere else, and that's not didn't actually touch the kernel of grain. Chavches. We know we don't bake on Pesach. Mashnefah kernel Pesach, which is baked before Pesach. Afi needs to chita b'matzah to Pesach. Even if you found the kernel of wheat inside the matzah during Pesach, and also says contain the tila. It only also contain the tila. But zelo sheichos the minir. It's not going to wake up again. She Pesach another time because it never had a time on Pesach. Kain zorg achita meketz matzah. So that's why you toss the kernel of grain, either with a finger's worth of matzah around it, but eat the rest. The shas alisha, the time you're kneading kodam Pesach, even chita was before Pesach. So if you find kernel of wheat in the dough, no take it and also contain til around it. Okay, ain't enough kamina badin hakodim. Okay, so all these things therefore don't have enough. We don't have enough kamina. Previous halacha of during Pesach because we do it before Pesach. Mila kapanim mucha. We did what I was saying about Shulchan Aruch. Excuse me. But it's clear from the authors of the Shulchan Aruch Shagam Betzonen Yesh Lo Yisur. So everything is cold. So Misha Sober and Pesach less to call it Esau because those who ask on Pesach the entire dough is Mitam Shahai because the kernel of grain was soaked in water. But Matir Sober and those who Matir Sober Shlois Amayim. It wasn't necessarily water. It was allowed So what's that story? Commercial yarn. I explain. After this, a vitamin I'm haiso seris. It's definitely water. For sure, it's in water. Definitely without sir. And no matter whether it's hot or cold, Vazei Sika Lavush ain't the toning os ain't oser. But Lavush says about this: if it's cold, it's not a problem. That's the king who first by Rosh Hashanah. Rosh the same thing. Ma'aseh Menitza Eskita Bakor Baklisha Mine. It's the case you found the cracked kernel of wheat in a vessel of water. Bishvul Sarah Mine. Tavshin cook that water another dish. V'yitir Tavshin out the dish. Lo Min Shin Esra Mine. Notice the water became also V'yaser Yasser Tavshin going for it's going to ask the entire cooked dish. Chaintir Avi Ezri. Avi Ezri allowed Chitim Shenaflu. The bar wheat which fell into a pit the game of Shamayim Tzonim, since the water is cold, and Achita no says by Tam. The wheat does not give them a taste. The chametz gomer shnafel a bar mutter is there time. If it's absolute chametz and fell into the well, it's mutter for this reason. I can't show you. Harele adoshat tzoni in all there. Well, it's quite clear. Then the cold is not a problem. But Bein says if I go to the Rosh Asa Isim, he says Chita Mamai. The Beis asks from this on the Rosh. It says that you find the kernel of wheat in the water, the whole thing is also. But who that's more posted? So in also, he said if it's cold, it doesn't answer. It says that it's not a problem in cold before Pesach. But they refuted that because it's certainly talking here also about Pesach itself. These are shiny. So they said the dough is different. Because you knead it and you roll it around. And dochik is and you pound the dough. And the kernel grain is getting pressed and crushed in his hands. Can't be that it didn't secrete some little amount when it was in the water and it was already soft. These are shiny. According to when it's cold, it's not a problem according to the Rosh or the Rashba, but only by dough it's actually Ban Kamosh Kasam as we wrote. Yeah, Lama Fiza according to Zesh Kasa Rabbeinu B'Sisi base. Even say Schita Bekua. If you find a cracked piece of wheat, or lechem chametz, or bread of chametz, a klishul mayim, if that's the water of aim book they eat in time, and that's not enough to give a taste. Shamayim, so if the cold water is cold, or vishal also mayim tavshil, and they cook with that water a cooked dish, or lo shisa, and they or needed a dough. It's mutter. Yeshu shosu the imatocha pesa. Those are if it's during Pesach kamashona. Zeshka Peter Usul Chag Ben Kohen Pesach Tocha Pesach. That was to cause to wrote distinction between before Pesach and during Pesach. That according to that, that's the reason it's following here. But according to Achronim who said we're not Mako, it was just because of the Pesach. Ain't Chiluk Amatorah Pesach Mutter B'Tzonein. It makes no difference when it happened. So it's mutter by cold. Mishnah Berurah says the water has to be cold. You need two. That the chametz doesn't have the shear to give a taste in the water, because the 60 water corresponding to the chametz, and also the water is cold. Shatzin says in the Gra, it explains according to the first opinion, the reason of if it's cold water itself is enough, even if there is no 60. Okay, which sounds like that here. Lamed Alf. When it comes to practical halacha, this is very confusing. The only thing is that even though those are asked about even by cold, it's most of rabbis agree not to answer when it's cold. And I've seen Mama Yisrael Isa Mashu Shudrabanan. Powerful statement. Don't cause the Jews a loss. Isa Mashu which Drabanan if it's cold. Mishnah Berurah brings down the Levush and other Achronim hold that like a person who's mentioned Chaber, they don't answer cold no matter what. And then Shas Chakavs the move, you can rely on them. Especially if the wheat was not cracked, only soft. You're essentially machmir and all it's by wheat. But if you found a slice of bread or dough in the water, also then even if it's cold, because those things tend to disintegrate and be absorbed in the water. You know, and it's a big shiloh they raise, which is how can you, in the old days, how could you drink from the Israeli water? When you used to come to the Kinneret, there's a certain amount of non-Jewish restaurants on the banks of the Kinneret, and probably they dump bread into the water on Pesach. Should not be bought because Chometz and Pesach Mashu. Going this, since the Kinneret is cold, it probably wouldn't be a problem. At least b'shas adchak. Nowadays they get the water from mostly desalination, so not an issue in any event. Um, Some people want to ask for meat, which is soaked in water, where there's a kernel of wheat in the water. Because the water there cracks, which absorb. That's Magen Avraham and Arukh HaShulchan says it. The came the meanings of the endless. It's saying cold it doesn't give taste. Came what do we care about the cracks? Actually, Sachita Beisa only when the wheat is in the dough. Yesha saw we should ask him times to Kosavnu, like he wrote Ima Yaza Pesach and only was on Pesach. Abashari Tzon Eno Oser Kamo B'Choisuin. But it's only in the dough, but not in any other type of cold. Because by cold, the taste doesn't penetrate. My base, I'm not close to low shore garam, but my may say it's not. Was he obviously was the kernel of wheat was not soaked for 24 hours. I was sure may say the soaked 24 hours. Also, it does actually the cup of kavusha. Something which is soaked is like something which is cooked. Really, it seems to be says Roshon the yesh suffering he might say the mayim alav. You don't know if it's there for 24 hours or not. Mutter. It's okay. The ha'isa mashu having the rabban. Prohibition of mashu chametz and pesach is the rabban. I was faking rabban kula. If you have a Soviet app or not, you go kula. And the Shabur argues, it seems. But he says, even if it was a suffix, it was there for 24 hours, so I'm not going to machmir. Nevertheless, if it's, again, Shabur's big nakuda here, if it was a kernel of wheat, which is not cracked, only soft, you don't have to be machmir a suffix. And even if it's a cracked piece of wheat, it's only when the piece of wheat is found, and then they cooked. I'm not sure why that makes a difference. It says you're looking, maybe it'll come up later on. Ufi says, according to this, this is if you find seeds, kernels in water wells. Even it's known that they drew water from that well, but when those the kernels were there, never has to be a suffix. Some says suffix they were there for 24 hours or not, and that's so you can't ask them. So I guess that's primarily Kinneret. Kinneret is that it's going to be covered in the Kinneret for more than 24 hours. That's the problem. Got it. Because certainly if there's a suffix, if the kernels were there all that time, and certainly if the kernels are not cracked, we shouldn't answer. I feel with suffix, nispaku, suffix, is a suffix that cracked or not, have a svek of the rabbanon, because the svek of the rabbanon, ulukulam, we go leniently. Brackets, without sim and tough sound base of yud, needs bar, anything clear. Since a guy with knedlach or berchemzach, if you find the knedlach or the kremzlach a kernel of wheat, sheisham shumur beitzim, and there's oil and eggs that have been made pears, where it's considered to be like fruit juice. For kremzlach yesh kam dvash, and the kremzlach also have honey. She have same rule. Simchas yontiv, there's a great loss, and simchas yontiv say yesh laka kbilin shlo teaser b'mashu shbi aser mashu. Came belefes ayin sham so to in a spread. I see from Zion, lean and suffix coverage, and look at them in Zion in terms of the suffix it was soaked or not, which already mentioned in Mishabur, I think. You should know the nearest line he was tied to me, the Zeshanim to Mordechai, that we find in the Mordechai Vishak and other ancient sources. The Bedin Chometz Nava Labor, that if Chometz fell into a well, in Nesra my Malach, so I come us or not, Zelko Babarsha my Mechunas, and it's all in a well of water which is collected. I can learn the language. Tush Kasav Shita Aviesri. Aviesri allowed Chitim Shanaf Labor, Kule Amayim, and Mechumatim Yard Labor. So about where the fermented water goes into the well, Einsham. Avo Be'er, but if it's a spring, Shumayan, which is a fountain, Hadavat Mulamai, she's Chamz Lamayim. Some people say the water comes Chametz. Sharei Heim Novim Tamid. That's always the water, which is gushing from the ground. Muchoyim Lamayim Shachtem, connected to the water underneath them. Moshlun Esar Nahar, just like we don't. So we shouldn't ask a river, but after my own dim, even the water standing, come einam nachim, nevertheless not at rest. And they're connected to with underwater passages to water shemichutzlaim, the water outside. I think Moshe Mechazal Chika. All the line is where the line is porous and water is going back and forth. Peishrashi shamayim. Hanoivim kan boim in our God, the water which wells out here comes from a greater river, Ain Sham. So they're the rak lemikveh enam chibur. In terms of mikveh, flowing water is not to be a connection. They're still going to be connected. That they spoke here about a be'er in conjunction with a bore, it's a mistake. It's only a bore, it's an issue. Not a bear, it's always in the water. The way they were not precise in their language.